Hi, my name is Dan from Bugbear Brothers. Today I'm going to be discussing Matthew Colville's video, Fudging Dice Rolls, which is episode 67 of Running the Game. In this video, Matthew Colville makes the claim that DMs ought to sometimes fudge their dice rolls in order to curate a good story. I'm going to explain why Colville thinks this and why I disagree with him. Colville begins by making a distinction between randomness and the uncertainty we have in the future and fate or catharsis. What Colville wants to claim is that when we roll a dice, we expect that we're going to get a fateful result, but dice are just random and oftentimes gives us something much different. So think about Conan the Barbarian, for instance, a man ripped with sinew, wading into a small group of scrawny goblins. All of us have an archetype or expectation inside of our heads about what might happen in such a situation. Typically, we would imagine that a great warrior, one as great as Conan, would make short work of the goblins. Now let's imagine that we started using dice rolls to determine how things turned out. Let's imagine that all the goblins kept scoring critical hits on Conan, and Conan could never hit them. Conan drops dead, the goblins all rejoice, and we have a conclusion, but not one that's satisfying and definitely one that's unexpected. Why did that happen? Well, the explanation is that dice are random, so you never know what they're going to give to you. There's probabilities, yes, but even probabilities can sometimes seem out of whack when you're rolling a dice. Colville's idea of how to respond to this problem is to sometimes fudge dice rolls. If you start realizing that you're dealing with an edge case situation and the dice rolls are creating something that's very discordant with players' expectations, you're not wrong to sometimes say, I'm going to treat this 20 as an 8 this time. The goblin misses. The problem with Colville's view, from my perspective, is that it's all about mitigating what the dice are doing. And in my estimation, we're already doing that. For example, think about attribute modifiers. We already understand that a fighter should have higher chance at doing a strength-based test than a wizard should. In order to represent this difference, we give a fighter somewhere between a +1 and a +5 bonus to their strength rolls. We may even give them an additional bonus through their proficiency bonus, or give them inspiration if they've done something very good role-playing in the game. All of these are ways in which we allow players to modify their dice results in order to make it less about randomness and more about archetype, expectation, catharsis, and drama. Now, even with these bonuses, there's a chance that the dice give you very low results, meaning that you still never hit. What do we do then? Well, there's a few ways that we can address this problem. One way is how Numenera has approached it. Allow players to actually affect the target before they roll, rather than getting them to add a passive bonus on top of what they roll. This is a way of letting players know what they're walking into and letting them decide how much of their effort or bonus or resource they want to contribute to that roll, how certain they want to be that things will go one way. Another approach, one that's very rarely seen in RPGs, is to let players roll and then give them a pool of points that they can add to their roll to get them up to the target number. This allows players to make choices and say, no, there's too much riding upon this attack. I want to add some points to ensure that I hit. My point being, there's many solutions outside of what Colville has given us, which is just the DM saying, no, I'm not going to take this result. The reason I advise rejigging game mechanics rather than fudging dice rolls is because there's a reason we have rules in RPGs. If it was just about storytelling or DM fiat, we would run into many power conflicts between players and their DM. The reason that we have dice as a mitigating factor in rule books is to help ensure that players have something that is consistent and certain. If you're a DM and you're fudging dice rolls, at least make sure that you're being consistent, because that's the point of rules. is to ensure that fiat's coming into gameplay as little as possible. I've been Dan, hope you enjoyed this video. Talk soon.